Good evening, Jamie. How are you going?
Hey, Stephen, how you going?
I'm very well, thanks.
Right. Thank you.
And thanks so much for taking your time out on your Monday night to come and hang out.
I couldn't think of a better place to be.
That's great. That's great. We just started out by Angel of Light or Triple X 27 Angel of Light. What's the explanation behind the title there?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Essentially, Triple X was a working title for the song. I had no idea what to call it. So I thought, I've just got this idea. I'll put it into Pro Tools and just call it Triple X.
Why not?
It's just a placeholder.
Yeah.
I got to about version number 27 of it, and it finally stuck.
Yeah, so, good.
Well, what the hell? It was meant to be, and it sort of, I just love the look of it, and it's just sort of just kept it. I just loved that title.
Yeah,
everything is X something. So.
Yeah, well, it looked like it's a pretty big production as well that you had on the night. I think that footage was that from your CD launch or album launch.
Yep, that was the CD launch.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So in regards to sort of production, so again, like it looked like you had you got obviously a lot of band on stage. You got really good lighting rig and everything happening there. So in regards to production, is that sort of the same crew that you're working with this band?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the values stay the same. The lighting person at the time is it's a wonderful lighting person, but we had someone who was working with us longer term, who was also worked with Black Steel, called Graham Piper, who, if he's listening tonight, hey Graham, who's he's always been a part of the band. So whenever we play now, we have Bob DeWolf on front of house, who's consistent everywhere. We don't want to play anywhere without Bob. Likewise with Graham. So the production values stay pretty much the same. The only difference is that we don't have the whole Skelton family on stage with us. That was Craig's wife, Deb, and Jessica, Craig's daughter, on extra keyboards. Nowadays, we have to keep things a little bit simpler and a little bit more compact in going with the times, and we use sequenced backing.
So I think you're back again. There's a little bit of a slight delay there in the internet. So yeah, you mentioned something about the backing on keyboards.
Yeah, well, essentially, that really frees us up by having the keyboards as sequences to be able to add as much as we want and keep the cost down and keep the band small.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we did decide to tour, it's easier to take a 4-piece band on the road and keep it very compact.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So that was the general way of thinking. Keep the stage. I mean, everything at that time, it was all very bombastic when we did that video, the big CD launch, which was great fun. But the reality of today's Spotify sort of world is that you can't be that grandiose anymore. It's really, really hard. You don't sell singles anymore. You get like, 0.0003 of a cent every time you get a stream. So you have to configure to match the market,
And so what like, how are you doing, how are you working in music around the current market, to sort of try and fit into how everything works now?
Yeah, well, we've always experimenting, never stop experimenting. And, we've tried, for example, the experimental idea with Diverse, which was an abbreviated dark universe, which is me and Donna doing everything with computers, just to see if we could do it. It's like, hey, let's see what happens when we do this. Everyone's busy or everyone's doing this or that or otherwise. We still want to be creative and do things. If we can't afford to put the band on all the time, what can we do?
Yeah.
So, we're not afraid to try anything. That's the thing with Dark Universe. It's literally always evolving all the time, never stops evolving. I'm always a step ahead with an evil plan of some stupid kind or another, trying a new way of reinventing the wheel,
Fantastic. So when did you guys start? When do you start playing?
Yep. We probably started the recording process in around about 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And the band sort of evolved through recording sessions and working in other bands, with Donna, for example. For quite a few years, we'd done the Siren tribute, Divinals tribute shows for charity for MS. And that led us into a band called True Spirit, which was our cover band. The first time that Craig and Michael, the drummer, had really got on board with us. So we were playing covers of Rush and all that sort of thing, just things we liked. It was never a conscious decision to try and be successful or famous or anything. We just wanted to play, have fun, play songs we loved playing. And True Spirit sort of evolved into Dark Universe. Dark Universe was originally a song, which is the song Dark Universe off the first album. And it just sort of seemed to fit. So, we moved very quickly away from the Jaime Page solo trip featuring True Spirit to becoming Dark Universe, which is what it is today.
Fantastic. And so if anyone like, for instance, myself, who's got introduced to you very recently here, if you were sort of to try and walk a new fan through sort of the early days to where you're up to now, could you try and sort of take us through the development of the band, both in regards to sort of writing songs, recording,
Sure.
Gigging and so on?
Well, essentially, the band started just like this, just like what we're doing now in a bedroom. I've got my guitars here. They're always here, ever present in the room next to the bed.
Fantastic.
And I just sit in the room with a guitar and maybe a glass of wine or whatever, and I would just sit there just experimenting. And I thought, for years and years I've been trying to write songs that everyone else would expect me to write, which was cool. You'd write a metal song for, say, a Black Steel or whatever it might have been, and you were aiming for a market. Whereas when I started writing what became the Dark Universe stuff, this was all the private, personal stuff that I was doing in the room that I never thought anyone would hear. I thought, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want because I can, because I just love doing it. I don't care if no one ever hears it. I really don't care, and I'm going to be bombastic and let all my Genesis and Kate Bush and progressive influences come through, a lot of the jazz, rock, fusion influences, but mixing it up, so you've got crazy mixes like someone joked that we sound like Black Sabbath with Kate Bush singing, That's, it's the sort of crazy things that were happening. On top of that, I was listening to some really strange hardcore sort of metal bands as well.
Like what?
What was it again? I'll have to look up the names. It was like, there was a song called Witch Cult Today, which I really loved, which is this really nasty, heavy, evil, horrible thing. I just loved it. And, that sort of found its way into the writing as well. So on the one hand, you've got all these eclectic, jazzy, folky, progressive influences, and then you've got the gargantuan riffs of Witch Cult Today or whatever it might be. And then mixing that with a lot of esoteric or ethereal sort of themes, which I love, because I love movies, I love creativity, art, and it was great to be able to look at some of them semi-occulty sort of them sort of themes and bring them in and go, okay, how far can we mine the emotion in this music? How deep can we actually go? How much into the pain or the joy or the love of whatever you're feeling can you dive? So I would sit here experimenting with that. I'd go, how can I make something make me want to cry?
But so this is predominantly you writing, is that right?
Yeah.
So these are your songs.
All my songs.
Yep.
And what happened was it was all a very well kept secret. You know, I just sit here listening and playing all this crazy stuff. And I was doing a gig quite a while ago with Donna at the Rocket Room in Perth, and it was a great chance to get Donna in front of a rock crowd again when she was going through a particularly difficult time. So we did this short set of heavyish songs. It was really, really, really great fun, and I'd taken her to the gig and drove her home afterwards, and she says, oh, by the way, what are you doing? What sort of things are you doing? And I said, oh, I've got this sort of CD of what, you know, the first song we did, which was Deepest Black. And I said, oh, do you want to hear it? And I just put the CD on in the car and cranked it up, and she literally just convulsed in a heap, went, oh, my God, we have to do this. I said, but it's just my own private stuff. She said, no, you have to do this. Then more, and you know, I started showing her more and more, and she's going, no, we've got to do that one, we've got to do that one. And it very quickly became quite a collaboration. So then we brought in Craig Skelton, the bassist, and we originally had Troy Brazier, who was playing with us with the Divinals tribute band on drums. And we recorded a few bits and pieces, and then we let it go for a little while, and went off to do other things. Everyone went their separate ways for a little while, and we started the True Spirit thing. Then it was Michael, the drummer, who we played one of the songs that we've been working on. And Michael says, we have to make an album. You have to do this. You've got to do this. So I picked up the phone, called Stewie James, who is my wonderful producer friend who runs the Soundfield studio in Bayswater. Said, oh, well, Stewie, looks like everyone's insistent that we're going to do it. Andrew Thompson from Around the Sound came in and put up the money so we could do it. And bang, we did it.
Wow.
You know, it's a very cathartic experience, you know, because a lot of us had different things going on in our lives through that period, you know, particularly in the production team. And, you know, often we would just sit there, all sitting there crying and hugging each other while we were making the music, because it was hitting so many personal spots, you know. Wow. With whatever the relationships that each individual was going through, there was always some raw emotion that we hit with everything, and that went on through both albums, through the first Dark Universe CD, into the Black, which went even darker, you know, went a lot heavier and darker. Now we had some amazing moments as we recorded that lot. So it wasn't just a case of, hey, bang, let's make an album. It was a whole cathartic, emotional experience for all of us, you know. And it's quite amazing when you look at it and you realize how much heart and soul that you put into it, you know. I mean, we really literally bled ourselves dry through that period for all that music. And I think the music itself, to be honest, it's the sort of music that in probably 30 years' time, someone will look back on and go, oh, my God, did you hear that? Mm. But we'll probably, you know, to be honest, it feels a little bit like, you know, everyone just went, oh, yeah, that's all right. It's not bad, you know, and which sort of shocked me. I thought, my God, we had something so powerful and such depth of feeling. I thought it had to hit hard and hit home, but it's been a very slow burn process. Yeah, just little bits, bite-sized pieces at a time, as people, because obviously today with things like Spotify and streaming and YouTube, people spend about 7 seconds on something before they fast forward it. They don't wait for a long intro to play through. Our stuff you do have to listen to a little more. It's a bit like the old Genesis sort of days where, you wouldn't appreciate an album until maybe the third or fourth listen, and then you go, oh my God, I get it now. I get it. This is great. I never want to take it off the turntable,
But sometimes, like, doing stuff like this is sometimes a good way to sort of get the actual meaning of the songs out. We actually get to sort of almost like maybe elaborate a little bit on the story behind some of the songs, because like a lot of other guests that I've spoken to has brought exactly the same thing up. Like as an artist, when you are creating your songs, like to a certain extent, it can be a little bit almost like therapy, because like you are sort of you're letting go of some of your emotions through the music. But sometimes, like you're saying as well, when you're sitting on the other side, for someone to sort of just dismiss it after 10, 15 seconds, it's like, hey, that's my heart and soul. I've spent like years creating this.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a difficult one, especially in this market, where there is so much stuff available all the time, and you really have to sort of fight for your right space. So would there be like in regards to sort of content or sort of creating more awareness about the songs? Is there anything else that you, either you or the band, have thought about that you could do in regards to maybe getting a little bit more attention on the songs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a, it's a case of what you can afford to do. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on marketing campaigns or whatever, so we have to do it organically. We have to get people to like it for the right reasons, and the word of mouth thing, even though it takes a lot longer, is also a lot more. You build true fans that way. People who truly love your music and don't like it because everyone else is liking it, pressing the like button, and the fans that we do have, the people that do love the music, have been incredibly staunch. It's just amazing to see how they've followed us through this journey. And I think that hopefully there's quite a few of them listening now. And I would love to say to all of them, thank you so much for the incredible support that you have given us.
Well, again, yeah, it is definitely difficult to properly expand the audience, especially sort of during this whole coronavirus time, where the live scene has been has taken a massive hit as well. But I think from what I can see, like, you guys have got a couple of gigs coming up in the near future as well.
Yep. Donna whipped us into shape and said, look, we got a gig. I was like, okay, you win. We got a gig. So we booked one, and we just put our friends on, basically. We thought, let's not worry about how many people are going to be there or whatever else. Let's just get together and have a play, even if there's no one there, or whatever happens. And, we've done a lot of rehearsing with Black Steel for the Slayfest show in March, which was cancelled, obviously, because of COVID. Yep. And so we thought, great excuse to give the guys something to do. And with Craig, he was working on his new band Triple Engine with Chris Gibbs and his son Dan. So that was a beautiful chance to give them a bit of a platform to release their new song, which is Love Things. Shameless plug for Craig Skelton and the boys. So yeah, we love playing. I love playing. I love plugging into an amp, and turning it up as loud as I can get away with anyway, and just doing it. And we're so lucky, especially with the sort of music that we play, because when you play it, it sends a shiver up your spine every time you play it. It really does. So that alone is all the payment in the world for me. It's a wonderful thing. And I do really hope that, we get a fair crowd. It's obviously a bit limited because of COVID. We're only allowed to have 100 people in the venue, but that makes it cozy, and it's all friends, and we all love each other, and we have fun. So that's great. So I can't wait for that.
It'll be awesome. We'll get back to that a bit later, so we can sort of bring up the dates and make and sort of finish off on a high there. I'm curious to sort of to hear your stories, and if we try and go back to the beginning, like when did you sort of discover music to begin with?
Yep, that's a great question. For me, the first thing I really remember was as a little kid was the Beatles. And I remember my Uncle Philip, God bless him, coming around my mum and dad's place in England when I was little with this little 45 with an apple on it, and which was Hey Jude, I think, at the time. And everyone sort of crowded around the little old record player. And it was like a religious experience. Oh, my God, that's Paul McCartney, that's John Lennon. And, that showed me that, that was the start. At the same time, Mum would tend to play a lot of classical music around the house or stuff. So that would always be a bit of a background influence. But the first time I really sat up was watching, I think it was Ready, Steady, Go in England with my grandmother. And Jimi Hendrix was doing something or other, probably Purple Haze or something. She's going like, oh, my God, look at the state of that lot. You're never going to end up like that, are you? No. But I loved it. I loved the look, the hair, the sound, the primal thing that Hendrix had going, even as a little kid. Then I digress back to early 70s, and a couple of my friends, I used to live in Africa as a kid at that point, and a couple of my school friends they were down the back of the class. They had something underneath their desk, and they're sitting there looking at it, and it was a packet of guitar strings. They're going, what are you guys doing? He says, look at these guitar strings. Isn't that cool? We're like cooler than everybody else. This is the best thing ever. So you got a guitar? He said, yeah, why don't you come over and have we'll listen to some music, and we'll show you our guitars. So I went over there, and this beautiful house, they had pictures of Mark Bolan and T-Rex and David Bowie on all the walls, a couple of guitars, and my friend, whose name was James Mvula, sat there playing Bob Dylan songs, Blowing in the Wind. And I just sat there and looked at him, thought, oh, my God, that is the coolest thing ever. And I loved the image. I loved everything about it. And I went home and said, Mum, I've got to have a guitar. And sure enough, she brings home this little Yamaha acoustic guitar. And I proceeded to attempt to learn how to play the thing, making a terrible, terrible racket. But it was a bit of a step up from standing outside our house with a whole pile of cardboard boxes with knobs written on them and a piece of string tying a pool cue, a set of amps, and me running around with Mum's wig and all Mum's crazy 60s clothes, sort of like trying to look like Jimi Hendrix,
And how old were you at that time?
I would have been about 11 at that time, 11 or 12. And the real killer, though, for me was going into a record store at the time and looking through, because there was something about heavy music that just really, really resonated, no pun intended, with me. I just loved the idea of deep, heavy, underground, heavy, hard music.
Why was that, do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I just loved it. And I saw the first Led Zeppelin album cover with the Zeppelin on it, and that cover just got me straight away. Thought, wow, and then turn it over, and you're looking at the picture of the guys with the hair and everything, wow, that's so cool. Who's the guitar player? Oh, it's Jaime Page. Oh my God, that's our family name. So it was like,
yeah, true.
that's what I want to do. And at that moment in my life, I just went, that's sort of how I want to be. This is I want to be. This is my path. And I guess in that road to discovery, there was so many great bands, and then everyone was listening to them. You'd be in the record shops and people would have Deep Purple albums, Uriah Heep, Rory Gallagher, King Crimson, all kinds of wonderful, brilliant bands. And it was just an explosion of awesome, out there, underground, heavy, dark, crazy, scary music. Wonderful. But and I guess I also got into the glam thing as well, with the Slade, the Sweet, with the heavier version of the Sweet, all that sort of thing as well. I loved the Image, I loved David Bowie, I loved all of those things. But likewise Black Sabbath. But I also loved other things too. I never saw a division in music. I thought it was okay to listen to Mozart or Beethoven or a musical theatre or opera, whatever else, or Elvis Presley or the Beatles, anything. I just loved all music. And from that point, I knew that the guitar and me were connected until death. That was where I wanted to go.
So what did your parents say when you saw that? Did you come up and say to them and said, "Guys, I think this is me. I'm gonna be a rock guitarist"?
Yeah, well, I don't think they were too thrilled. And Mum used to complain because I used to ruin their parties by putting Led Zeppelin on. They'd all be dancing around to all the silly pop songs of the day. No, not silly. I mean, they're probably great little songs, but they'd have these wonderful little parties going. Then I'd put Dazed and Confused on, and the thing would just die. What are you doing? You can't put Dazed and Confused on, But that, I was so still
That's
am
awesome.
Totally, completely naive and unthinking. It's just like, oh, I think this is great. Listen to this. And they're like, what has happened to you? What the hell has happened to you?
So your parents, they didn't listen to rock at all?
No.
Oh,
No,
wow.
they never had a problem with it. Having said that, I think as Mum and Dad realised how fiercely determined I was to be a guitar player, they realised that it was pointless to fight it. So they got behind me and thought, whatever we can do to help, we're going to do. So they were incredibly supportive through that period. And I was determined at that point that I was going to do it. Nothing was going to stop me, and I was going to get there.
And what age were you at there?
Probably 13.
Okay.
14. I destroyed my schooling at that period because, I would pretend to go to school, but I wouldn't. I'd be sitting at home and jamming along to Jimi Hendrix records sped up.
Love it.
Or whatever. Then you'd sort of come home and Dad would be like, oh, yeah, how was school? Oh, it was really great, Dad. Yeah.
And they never found out?
Eventually it all panned out. But, I joined my first bands through that period and probably got into little pockets of trouble and difficulty. And my teenage years started to very quickly get out of control. And I totally, to much regret, to be honest, I dropped out of school at 15, started work, then dropped out of work to start being a bum musician. And that lasted for a very long time. I just wanted to do it so bad. And I fought my way through. We moved from Whyalla in South Australia over to Perth in the late 70s which was a big step forward for me. I joined a lot of great bands back in the day at a very young age. Although, funnily enough, you used to sort of I remember ringing up for gigs in the classified ads, and they go, "Oh, what's your name?" You'd say your name, and they go, "Oh, fuck off." Put the phone.
Why is that?
They thought I was taking the mickey. Sure, I suppose Eric Clapton's coming as well.
Fair enough.
But I fought my way through and got into some really big bands at a young age, and I was determined to get back to the UK. I'd watched what was going on in the very early days of new wave of British heavy metal before it even became that. Just after the punk era, when bands like UFO and Whitesnake were just crawling from the wreckage of what happened with punk. And, then seeing bands like Motorhead come out, I thought, Judas Priest, I thought, that's the place I need to be. I need to be in England where that scene is happening. And, bands like Motorhead, I didn't necessarily love the music, but I loved the image and I loved the energy. So for me, that's what I wanted to achieve. So even though I was in some fairly big bands in Perth, like I was in a band called The Invaders, which were working quite a lot. Then I went to London for a year, and by total luck, I ended up auditioning for this band called Two Faced with a singer called Dennis Wilcox, and which was a funny experience. I mean, there must have been about 150 guitar players at the audition. I just queued up, sort of waiting my turn, and Dennis, the singer, walks over and goes, "Here, just go over and play. Just go and play." I said, I'm queued up. I'm waiting for everyone else. He said, "Oh, just don't worry about it. Just go over there and plug in now. Just jump the queue." And I guess, professionals can smell professionals because there was a lot of amateurs there. I just went in there, cranked the thing up and started smashing it out. And the room emptied.
Wow.
And it was like, okay. And so I worked with Dennis and that little band first for about 7 or 8 months. And we ended up playing at the Ruskin Arms, the classic old Iron Maiden haunt of the time. And I made, I guess, the fatal decision to come back to Perth for a quick holiday. And on that holiday, I was approached by my old management company to start up something from Australia with financial backing and then take it back to the UK, knowing what I'd been learning over there. And I had a singer that I'd worked with a few years previously called Rob Hartley. He was a bit of a wild man, Bon Scott type of screamy AC/DC sort of guy, but he was just a natural born star. So I thought, this is just a killer band that they were putting together for me. So I rang Dennis and said I wasn't coming back, and that was the beginning of Black Alice, the first of many bands with the name Black or Dark in it. And we made an album called Endangered Species, which was a great album at the time, but again, it was probably 20 to 30 years ahead of its time in style. It was incredibly clever at the time, but it failed failed to really do anything. The songwriting was still very rough at the time. I put my hand up to say I was responsible for a lot of that, but I was just naive and didn't really know what I was doing. But, you're putting heart into it, and you put cool titles with as heavy a sound as you possibly could with the riffs or whatever. And it bombed. We didn't go anywhere at the time, despite it being a wonderful band. And I ended up getting asked to join a band called Trilogy, which was with another hero of mine at the time, John Ryder, who was originally in a band called Saracen. It was a very big local band, brilliant band, just the best musicians you could ever wish to play with or know. They were just incredible. John was just one of the most amazing bass players and amazing singers you'll ever hear. Incredible songwriter, just everything. He had the whole package. We spent 3 years kicking that. We put out an album, Life on Earth, which was incredibly well received. And even today, people are still hunting that album down. But for me, I had unfinished business in England. My drive was just to get back to London absolutely as soon as possible. I knew I'd made a mistake in coming back to Perth. I should have stayed there. I had a second go. So I had to play an evil plan of how I wanted to approach things. And I remember methodically writing everything out, going, okay, well, imagine if, you had Lemmy playing bass and Cozy Powell playing drums or this or that. And I went out and tried to, and it inadvertently sort of started happening, And I got to chat with Lemmy a few times and went to a Motorhead rehearsal to have a look at what they were doing. And, the drummer, Pete from Motorhead, was trying to help me to find a band in London. He was trying to get me to jump up a bit and get into something a bit more hardcore.
Wow.
And, I ended up working with Steve James, who was the producer that produced our Black Alice album, but was also living in London. So I started working through him. We worked in a band together with a band called Driveshaft from Ireland, which was managed by a lady called Brenda Brooking from Rack Records, which you probably remember from Susie Quattro and the Sweet Days, Mickey Mouse Stable and all that sort of thing. And one way or another, we ended up just getting to know people. So we ended up writing and rehearsing and recording with a keyboard player named John Sinclair, who was famous for a band called the Heavy Metal Kids in the 70s, then went on to play in Uriah Heep. Then he was producing us, me and Jerry, this Irish singer, in his little band. And
it's a lot of big names in there.
There's a lot of big names, and we were just struggling, hungry artists that were desperately trying to get ahead. And John, the keyboard player, took a phone call while we were rehearsing in his house, writing songs. He says, Ozzy wants a keyboard player to go on tour to do the Ultimate Sin album. And I was going, and he's, what do you know about Ozzy? Because he wasn't really that into all that stuff. And so you just got to do it. You just got to go. Just get on the freaking plane and go. Just don't worry about us. We'll be here, And he did. And he went off and recorded, played with Ozzy for years and years.
Wow.
And we ended up attempting to record that album, but it was very hard for John because after a couple of years of touring and the difficulties of that and the family stress and strain, it just became a little bit much at the time. And it was too much for him. And, we couldn't wait for years and years between sessions to do things. We ended up, originally the drive shaft was supposed to be literally Whitesnake plus Jerry, our singer, which was the Whitesnake that wanted to get away from David Coverdale, which was Mel Galley, Neil Murray, and Cozy Powell. And so I'd said to their manager at the time, that's really what you should have done. You should, maybe start over, call Cozy in and see what he can do and go in a different direction, which she did. Cozy came down, had a listen, started redoing some of the drums, and one thing led to another, and we ended up sort of doing a lot more stuff. It was incredible to be sitting in a recording studio with Cozy Powell on the other side of the glass while I was sitting there at the control room at the desk with Neil Murray sitting next to me, reading about himself in Kerrang or whatever. There's me again, there's me. And Cozy's sitting there playing this huge, great sort of stargazer-style feel in the drum room. And you're sitting there, oh, my God, this sounds like it's like we're in the middle of a Rainbow album. It's just incredible, But what happened was we were at a cusp of time where we missed the ship that we needed to be on by maybe 2 or 3 years. Music was changing. Everyone was, Bon Jovi were becoming popular, Guns N' Roses, Metallica on another tangent, and all them sort of 70s rock bands in the ilk of the Randy Rhoads, Gary Moore, Whitesnakes were becoming less relevant at the time. And we couldn't get a record deal for what we were doing. When people found out it wasn't Jaime Page that Cozy was playing with, they lost interest very quickly. And so we'd recorded a few little bits and pieces. And I basically realized at that point that it was impossible to stay in England any longer, financially impossible. And the odds of being successful were more and more limited because I really didn't want to be in a Guns N' Roses style rock band. It just wasn't me at the time. I was into a whole other thing. And the plan was always to do a bit of work with Cozy, to work on his solo album at some point, to fly back, which led to what eventually transpired with his solo album, The Drums Are Back, where a couple of the songs that we'd recorded ended up being used on that album. And he recorded the song I was supposed to play, which was called Ride to Win at the time, which I'd written back here I'd written originally in England. He wanted to record it, and I'd redone it again, a new version, sent it over to him, and I was supposed to go there and play on it until he fell off a horse, and everything was cancelled. So I thought no more of it, cancelled the flight tickets, get a call a few months later going, oh, if Brian May should call you, don't say a word. Don't agree to anything. I go, Brian May, Queen? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? And nothing happened. And Brian May played on the song I was supposed to play on. Then Brian liked it, and he took the backing tracks that we'd done, that Cozy had done on his solo album, and then re-recorded it again, rewrote the vocals, and put it on his album, which was just an incredible thing to happen for me, to number one, to have someone who's so dear to me as Brian May actually want to play one of your songs.
Yeah, that's...
But the freakiest thing about that was I had this little bag of songs and crap and cassettes and rubbish, and there was a little article that someone had written in Perth at the time that came out of totally out of nowhere, that had a picture of me on it. And I'd used it to make a newsletter up at some point, and it had sticky tape on the back, and it had got stuck to Brian May's Starfleet album, the cassette. I pulled it out, and there's the picture of me on the Starfleet album saying that Jaime Page gets discovered by some famous English musician and is now going to be a star.
And what year was this?
This was in the late 80s. And
Nice.
it was just freaky that it actually happened. Brian May ended up putting the song out. It ended up getting into the top 30 in the UK. And this strange little thing actually happened, you know. So I was particularly thrilled with that, and thought, well, with my career, you can't complain about that. And one of my friends brought around the live DVD of said show, said, now check this out. And there's Cozy and Brian playing said song. Cozy Powell putting his drum solo in the middle of it, and then segueing into Bohemian Rhapsody to bring it out, and then back into mine again. And I thought, well, wow, you know, no matter what, you had a dream, you tried your damnedest to make it happen, and you got so close. And the fact that my shitty little song from Perth, Western Australia, ended up being merged with one of the great songs of all time is something that is absolutely dear to my heart and makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely.
It's an incredible thing. And through that period, you know, I still kept playing a little bit. You know, I'd lost a bit of interest. I'd lost a lot of passion for what I was doing. And it wasn't really until Black Steel, which was Dave Harrison. If it wasn't for Dave Harrison, I don't know what we would have done. He was the bass player from Allegiance. I don't know if you know Allegiance from Perth. They were this huge thrash speed metal band. They were just monsters. I'd already knocked Dave back once to join his cover band because I just didn't want to play anymore. And, you know, 7 or 8 years later, we ended up starting Black Steel as a blues band together for a bit of fun with Matt Williams, the singer. And that core of the three of us has, you know, been around for over 20 years. Playing together, you know, we never really did a lot with it, but you know, just great friends. And
that's it's a very, very impressive timeline, I must say. Well, I've written down a few things here to sort of try and reflect back on it. I think probably the biggest sort of question or the biggest thing I'd like to sort of drill into is, how did you keep your focus, like your mindset? Because obviously, like, you knew that this was something you just wanted to do. But if you're saying, if you were in, I think you mentioned you were in London first, then you flew back on a holiday to Perth, and then you stayed in Perth for a couple of years, and then back to London. You stayed there, and you had all this. You had this huge network. Like, you started meeting, like, you hung out with Motorhead, and
that's true.
Yeah, and then. Like, at this point in time, were you still gigging, and were you making some sort of income from music in London during those years, or what were you doing to sort of stay focused?
I was very focused. I wasn't making any money, but I was staying focused, and it was my partner who was keeping us afloat through that period.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd practice and write and think and strategize and practice. And I wrote everything down, and I'd be incredibly analytical in how I was doing it. And so the focus was absolutely laser-like. But what brought me undone was having our house burgled at the time, and all my guitars were stolen. And that really screwed me up totally at that point, which would have been about 1986, 87. And I just went off the rails. I couldn't deal with my beloved Strat at the time that meant so much to me. And someone that we lived with, the person who owned the house we lived in, gave me a little acoustic guitar to play in the meantime when we tried to rebuild. I tried to rebuild. I still remained focused up until the end of the 80s. But the knockbacks and difficulties started to get to me a little bit, because you're so close. You're sitting in a pub drinking with Cozy, joking about David Coverdale and this and that and who's done what and what John Sykes was supposedly doing and who was in and who was out and who was cool and who was not. Then, Cozy would get on his huge expensive motorbike or his expensive Range Rover, and we'd go to the bus stop or get in my little 300-pound car. So the differences were extreme. It was stark. And I think, truth be known, at that particular time, there was a lot of vulnerability starting to come to the fore for me personally. And it just it became very apparent to me that I wasn't cut out for the rock and roll lifestyle. I couldn't do it. If you're walking with the Lemmys or the Aussies of the world or whoever might have been around, they were hardcore. They were seriously hardcore people. And when you see the hardcoreness up front, you realize that, as John said to me, there was, I really hate to keep talking about what had happened then, but, when they're talking about getting your auditions with your dream artists, so to speak, which happened to me, it knocks your mind. They're saying to you, hey, Ozzy's looking for a guitar player. I'll have a chat to him for you and see if we can get you in as well. And you go, oh my God. But when it doesn't happen, which it didn't for me, or when there's numerous other things that I'd rather not sort of go into too much because it's not so much for me, but you just don't want to. It can really hurt you to get so close and not to be in touching distance, but keep slipping all the time. And for me, I fit with an older crew at the time, and I just, they were all struggling, all of them. The numbers, the gigs were starting to drop off for a lot of those acts through that period as music changed and grunge and everything else changed. So I lost complete track, and I sort of ambled through for many years, did a few good little things, but nothing where I really, really felt it. It was just music for music's sake or design's sake. Lots of experimenting in case of bands like Angus McDeath, which you probably haven't heard of. But it was a very important band for things like Dark Universe, because that's where a lot of the crazy experimental stuff started happening. And I realized at that point that my true love was in the writing and creation of some of these crazy things. And it took me literally until the birth of that the first couple of songs, like Deepest Black, which was The first demo of that was recorded in 2010. Now that was the turning point. That was the song that finally I looked at and thought, that's who I am. This is the real me. You know, there was touches of it through Black Steel. If you listen through the Black Steel catalogue or the Angus MacDeath catalogue or the Black Alice going back to the 80s, there was a certain thing that kept going through all of them, and it's kept going through to Dark Universe. And today I know exactly what I want to hear in my head. Exactly. You know, to the point, you know, where I've got probably 3 or 4 or 5 albums worth of material sitting here to work with should I want to. And every one of them has the same heart and passion about it, you know, and that is the payoff. You know, I can sit there and listen to it, go, you know, you've managed to get what's in there into Pro Tools and out into something real. And, you know, so that it took me a long time, and, you know, probably, you know, where I should have been in the 20s, I'm at now, you know, but I was a very late developer in that respect artistically. Now, it took a lot of mistakes, a lot of false steps to be able to work out what the right ones were for me.
But do you think if there was anything, if you could go back and you could change something you did, like if you never went on that holiday back to Perth, or if there was something you'd done different, do you think that would have made a difference to, I mean, we have the whole butterfly effect, but do you think there was anything that would have altered the path?
That was the first one.
Okay.
That decision to stay in Perth was the one. That was the big one, because in 1981-82, it was, you know, bands like Maiden were hot. Yeah, that was the cool thing. You know, Gary Moore was huge. UFO were massive. All those bands I loved, Ozzy, all that, they were all just really starting to happen. Motley Crue, which I loved as well. You know, all of those bands were starting to really happen. When I went back in 85, a lot of them bands had changed. The scene had changed. And I hadn't. But on the same token, you know, there is no complaints, there is no regrets, because I consciously chose all the things that I chose to do. And, you know, it's a very positive thing to realize that you're doing it because you love the music, not because you want to be famous or be a rock star or whatever. I mean, the love for me is being able to sit there and write something that I love. That's enough for me. I don't care about the rest of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's probably the core essence of it all. Like, you have to sort of stay true to yourself. Otherwise, you're sort of doing everything for the wrong reasons.
So if there was one lesson I took out of everything, it was, do not try to please everyone else. Listen to your heart. Listen to what is right for you, because you're probably right. It was all the false steps I would make trying to please everybody else that screwed me up.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
but, you know, it's all good.
Yeah. So, but I suppose, again, one of the really good things is, as you mentioned yourself as well, like now you've found sort of like the true musical identity. Like, as you said, like you have all these, like, did you say you had like material for 5 albums just sitting around? So what are you going to do with them in the future? Are you planning on releasing some more albums in the coming years?
I don't think I'm ever going to go back to doing albums as such again. I think I'm going to keep it a little bit, bit more economical, and just keep releasing periodical singles. When there's enough singles, then we'll maybe consider putting it into an album format. But I think that the whole album format for a lot of people is probably a bit dead now, you know, because people are making up their own playlists anyway, you know. So I think the way of the future is to focus on one good little thing at a time, not too big a thing, not be too grandiose in your thinking. Just write one good song and hope that people like it, and do your best to get people liking it. And what I've been in the process of doing recently is going over some of the things that we've done recently and just cleaning them up and trying to refocus on them. Like, for example, the Shadow thing that we did, which was a remaster, which I did just for fun in the bedroom here. I thought, everyone's talking about mastering and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Let's whack it into Pro Tools and see what happens. And I had to, there was a situation where I had to reconfigure my digital musical footprint anyway, because the company which was Firestarter stopped doing digital distro. Unknown to me. 3 months later, I didn't realize that we were off iTunes and whatever. So I thought, wow, what a great excuse to reimagine it again and start over and rethink it, So I've just been re-queuing a few little bits and pieces and re-putting them out, which I've been doing over the weekend.
Awesome.
So by the time of the gig, there'll be a few fresh things up for people to get their teeth into, particularly on Apple Music. I've remixed a song which I found literally in the cutting room floor, which I was going through looking at rehearsing songs for the show, and I found this outtake from the album, which was a song called "Falling in a Dream," where Stuart, the producer, had managed to connive to get some session string players to tack their strings onto our songs, onto a couple of our songs while they were on the payroll. So they quickly did a few little bits and pieces. And I said to Stewie, would you just pull everything out for me and just let me hear the strings, the acoustic guitar, and Donna singing? And on listening to it again after forgetting about it, it was like, oh my God, that's just stripped away to absolutely bare essentials. And Donna came through like so beautifully. It was literally one of them things you listen to and just start crying. It was so brilliant. So I said to Donna yesterday, I said, oh, guess what? There's a little surprise for you in Dropbox. Have a listen. And I just basically reorchestrated the strings a little bit more to add a bit of extra finesse and sparkle to it. And she just said, oh my God, there's one thing I'm thankful for out of everything that's happened is this. It's such a beautiful moment, it could have so easily been lost, It was just one of those freak little things. And
So you have remixed and remastered it yourself?
I just had a WAV file of the string players and Donna. I'd asked Stewie to run it off for me because I thought, at the time I thought that's really cool without any instrumentation. So they just send me a copy, just quickly bounce it and send me a copy. Then it just sat there in my archives, forgotten. So we've got that going out over the streaming platforms over the next week, hopefully, which is Falling in a Dream acoustic, which I'm immensely proud of. And I think there can be a lot more learned from that experience. Sometimes less is more. I spent so much time trying to be bombastic and cover everything with heavy 7-string detuned guitars to the detriment sometimes of everything else that was going on. So to pull me out of it and have the nerve to pull me out of it and go, what's everyone else doing? My God, they're awesome. Shut up and listen to them for a minute. And it was a great thing to draw and learn from,
So you said, so this song, so this will go up next week, or?
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be live by the weekend, I hope.
Awesome.
So yeah, very quick.
And so in regards to releasing singles though, like roughly how long should you wait in between releasing a new song, do you reckon, in sort of given the current climate?
Yeah, I'm really impatient. If I feel something and I like something, I just put it out there and to hell with it. So, we had the remaster of Shatter go out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was going to be it. But with the falling in a dream thing, I thought, no, that has to go out. So I put other things that I've got on hold to save for another day, and so the next things that come out before we've got another show in November, I think, at the Rosemount with Triple Engine, Craig Skelton's band, and I managed to connive and convince them to let me do some of my instrumental crazy stuff as a bit of a feature for the next show.
Oh, cool.
So I've got 2 or 3 songs, or 3 or 4 songs probably, where I just tried to create something that would send the rhythm section mad. So, they're going to hate me. But, why not? But I was originally hoping to release one of them around about the time of the show, this upcoming show.
Yep.
But I heard what Donna had done. I thought, nah, save it. Just push it back, wait. But that's really exciting to have so many different facets happening, There's 2 or 3 remixes going on at any given time with either a D-verse song or a Dark Universe or new songs being written. So it's very exciting to be in that little maelstrom of chaos that is me, doing
Yeah. And have you, but in regards to sort of future plans, if you like, where's sort of the ambition to take this? And are you planning on hopefully be able to monetize it? Or what's your thoughts?
Like to. I've had to learn a bit, as you learn that CDs are yesterday's news and you've got to relearn the industry again. I'm just literally trying to do it on the fly at the moment, just look at what everyone's doing, look at how they're best doing it. And, when we get enough fresh things to start getting some momentum, then pushing it out a bit then, looking at the Spotify side of things and the Apple Music side of things, trying to get a few plays, because obviously plays, they're going to drive plays, more people listen, the more people will listen, so you just got to start somewhere. But, I think we've got enough now to be able to give it a really solid push and feel confident that we've got enough in the back catalogue and in the forward catalogue moving forward to be really strong,
And have you still got access to some of the people from your previous network? Someone that might be able to help you push it a bit further?
Funnily, you should say that, because to be quite honest, most of them are dead.
Oh, really?
It's like, oh my God, it's like being poison ivy or something, or the Black Widow or something, because obviously there's a couple of them still around, and I'm still in contact with a few older friends, with a view to collaborating on new things with what we're doing that can maybe help a little bit. So yeah, there are definitely some old people that can help, but most of them have long departed, either musically or literally don't live anymore,
Yeah.
The worst thing that ever happened was really when Cozy died, because everything was weighted on Cozy's shoulders. It's like, this can happen, that can happen. And there was always hope at that point when Cozy had his accident. That was the end of my manager at the time, who has disappeared. I don't know what's happened to her. And so it's start over, try again, create new contacts and create new fans, new friends. And
yeah. And how are you finding how are you finding all that process, sort of having to relearn all the digital way of
it's great.
promoting?
I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think the tools available to people these days are just scary. It beats the hell out of sending someone a mixtape.
Yeah.
What Lars from Metallica used to do, which we all used to do back then. You'd get all these tapes of all these obscure metal bands or rock bands or whatever, and that's their way of networking back then. So nothing has really changed except the medium, I guess. Passionate people get behind things, and if you can find enough people with enough passion, then you've got a chance,
And now you have to send people EPKs and YouTube links and what have you.
You just keep doing that. You keep trying, because one day someone's going to listen and someone's going to go, hey, you've got to hear this. And you never know when that moment is.
No, that's right. That's right.
The secret is that when it comes, you have to be ready. You can have the greatest music in the world, but if you're not prepared, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way, by being unprepared,
So in regards to creating content, other than just music, is that something you're looking into? Like updating your Instagram, you've got Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social platforms, sort of to keep them up and running?
Yeah, it gets a bit intimidating trying to keep it all going at times and keeping it fresh. Because obviously we've been reliant a little bit on older things being recycled in recent times, but it's only really maybe the last month or two that I've really felt that there's some forward motion for fresh things.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely. I have my finger in a lot of pies digitally, so to speak, and that's a big part of the situation moving forward. Definitely.
And is that predominantly yourself, or have you got have you got sort of different roles within the band to do different stuff?
The way it works is in that area, it's really me and Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah, we work together a lot. And so I'll have an idea, she'll work with it, she'll throw it back to me, and we do a lot of that together. But Donna is predominantly mostly interested in the Facebook side of it and the website side of things.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of both of us, and at times life gets in the way a little bit, and there's things you'd love to do but don't always do. So I'm having to work a little bit harder now to keep on top of that.
Yep.
So to speak.
But if you were to sort of picture yourself in, say, 3, 4, 5 years from now, where would you like things to be heading?
That's an interesting question, because I don't know, to be honest. I would love to say I knew, but I don't know. I mean, the honest side of me that is not going to be the marketing person is going to say, I'll be happy just to be alive in 5 years, to be honest, in the current environment with the way life is changing, and as you're getting older, you sort of, it's hard to look so far ahead. So right. I'm tending to look a little bit closer, to where I can be at any given time over a period of months. Years ago, I would think years ahead, but things change so quickly that I think, planning for anything too far ahead can be a little bit scary, because you have to be cognizant of everything that's going on.
Right.
who would have believed Spotify would change everything, or Apple Music, or whatever, all these different things happen. God forbid, TikTok selling audio songs, who would believe,
Yeah.
So, it's, quite honestly, it'd be lovely to be able to just take a marketing team and go, hey, you think about all this. I just want to go back to Pro Tools and writing songs again, and you guys start doing the marketing for me.
You start pushing TikTok.
Yeah, I definitely want to be making TikTok videos. That's it. Other people do that.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's a platform that hasn't really sort of got my attention either. But I think, again, look, each to their own. Like, I'm not a big Twitter person either. I think that it definitely has its place, but hasn't really sort of.
Twitter is leaders and followers. And there's nothing in the middle. You either got no one or you've got millions, but there's shit in the middle.
Yeah, quite possible. I said I've never really looked into it, so
too hard. And unless you've got shitloads of money, and you can afford to put Trumpian amounts of effort and finances into it, why bother?
Mm-hmm.
At least Facebook to me is my favorite because it's allows you to express in a cool way that is not too restrictive. You can put good images in. You can put a nice little blurb in there. It's not like Instagram where it's like, bang, here's a pretty photo and it's gone.
Yeah. Facebook is definitely the most versatile platform. Now you can put in videos, text, images, links, anything. Yeah.
I love hate Facebook, shall I say? Love and hate it. It's frustrating when they keep changing the algorithms. But...
Oh yeah, all of that stuff is just it's too hard to keep up on and all the hashtags and all that stuff.
It's funny.
So there's a funny thing here that I wanted to sort of touch base on. That is, you released an album with Black Steel that's called Helhammer. When I saw that, our mutual friend Chris Symes sent me a photo of it, and I had a bit of a giggle to myself when I saw that. I'm just gonna bring it up here. It's got some wicked cover artwork on it here as well.
It was amazing.
When is that album from?
Yep, we released that in about, I think, 2006, if I remember rightly. It's really artistically the brainchild of Dave Harrison, who organised with the record company, which I think was Steelheart at the time, to put that together. I mean, it was, Dave did a brilliant job. He's just the ultimate visionary marketing guru, and I should give him a bit of a promo for his heavy metal merchant establishment, which he's doing wonders with. Dave is Mr. Metal. He's brilliant. At the time, I was really, really angry. Probably hear from songs like Annihilate, which was, I was just so mad. I think we got a bad review from someone at that time, and it sent me into a whole album's worth of writing about hate and wanting to kill someone, because I hated getting a bad review.
Was that a bad review about Helhammer, or was that
No, it was about Black Steel. We did a Metallica tribute show, which is not something I was ever any good at all. I was never a Metallica fan or person. I appreciated and respected what they did, but I could not play Metallica to save my life. I just wasn't that person. And I sucked at this particular gig, and I was called out by the writer of the time, who literally called it out, and he was spot on. But my ego couldn't take it.
Right.
Hence Annihilate. Hence that was then. This is now. All those songs were all a production of my bruised ego of the time, along with a bunch of other more esoteric songs that Dave and Matt had brought to the table. But Slaughterhouse was pretty much how I felt. And but Helhammer was the one that sparked the whole thing. It started with just the title, which I sort of loved. I remember there was a band called Helhammer that were absolutely derided back in the day. But I thought, no, bugger it, I'm going to use that title anyway, because I was always a West Ham United supporter, the Hammers in England. Yeah,
yeah. So that's where it's at.
It sort of came from the Hammers.
Yeah.
I love anything to do with dark, hell, black, heavy, or deep, or X's. That's
right.
That's where I tend to go, and Hellhammer just fit the bill. And to be honest, Hellhammer was literally the template for everything that followed with Dark Universe. Because if you listen to Helhammer, all the bits were there, you know. And it's one of my favourite Black Steel songs, and that'll be forever etched in our memories as your song now.
Yeah, well, the fun thing about the fun thing about my name is it's actually got nothing to do with anything metal or anything. Like I think that Helhammer band, I think they were from Switzerland or something, if I remember correctly. The reason why I came up with my name and how it's spelled, it's actually an abbreviation of me and my wife's last name. So my last name is Helbo, and my wife's last name is Hanham. So we just took Hell and Ham and merged it together. And because there's 2 of us and 3 kids, then we're the Hellhammers. So that's how that came up.
It's great. I love it.
But yeah, it was, but as soon as I saw that album, I was like, that is so good. And because you came on the show, I just have to bring that up. That's epic.
We'll be dedicating that to you at the gig for sure. Definitely.
Fantastic, man. So in regards to, let's just see, we've got quite a few questions here. So we'll probably jump over to a Q&A shortly. I do have something here. This is again something from your blog where you mentioned that earlier as well, saying that you do love movies. What are you sort of currently watching on Netflix at the moment? Because again, as we were talking about previously with the whole music industry, the movie industry is sort of very much the same. Everything is sort of on demand and streaming based.
Exactly. The last movie I watched was on Saturday night, and it was called The Goldfinch.
The Goldfinch.
Yeah. And it was absolutely sensationally brilliant. Absolutely loved it. It was a story about a work of art, but it was everything about this work of art was intrinsically connected to this little boy's life and his voyage as a human being, and it had some tragic turns, to the end there. I'm just sitting there blubbering, crying, going, oh my God, this is just so sad. But it was a long 2.5 hour movie. And for the first half an hour, I was sitting there going, I'm not sure if I can stay awake for this one, but I persevered. See, same thing, you persevere.
Yeah.
It turned into one of the best movies I've ever seen. The original story won a Pulitzer Prize. It's no wonder why. It was just a brilliant, brilliant bit of work. Absolutely brilliant.
Wow. Is there anything else that you've sort of recently have picked up on, saying that this is something that sort of stands out?
Lots and lots. I love movies so much. I also love biopics, and I love biographies as well. So in recent times, that's been watching Motley Crue's The Dirt.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It was a bit of fun. I ended up turning it off because it got too much for me. But it was after watching it 3 or 4 times, it got a bit boring. But after Ozzy had snorted the ants, I thought, oh, something else.
Yeah, so it's funny though, because when you do watch some of those movies, like I myself, I wonder like how much of that has sort of turned into Hollywood and stuff, or how much is actually real. But
so I read a lot too. I do a lot of reading, and it's usually always biographies. I love getting into people's minds or particularly musicians' minds. And, you know, at the moment, I've got this. Nothing
Nice.
to me, Kiss, which is great story. Yeah, wonderful story that teaches you so much. You know, every biography you read, you pick something up, you learn something. So I love watching biography movies or biography books. I guess I'm a bit of an emotional vampire in that respect, to just keep sucking information away until you actually get something out of it, you know?
But that's again a good thing. Like that's again like a lot of these conversations that I've had with different guests. It's the same. Like you get new stories, you get new information and new ideas and stuff. So it's I suppose reading and having good conversations are a really good way of sort of broadening your horizon.
Exactly. I think what tends to get me mostly is thinking about time and people's timelines, where they've been and where they've gone, what they leave, what their legacies are, and that tends to get me right in the spot every time. And it's incredible because you don't think about it until, you know. Years ago, I used to love this game called Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if you remember Final Fantasy.
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
Anyway, I used to play it with my kids a little bit, and it was like, I think it was 4 discs of RPG gaming, and we got to the end, and I remember battling to get to the end about 2:00 in the morning, and my little daughter Gabby comes out at 2:00 in the morning as we're just about to destroy the last boss, and put 4 CDs of, well, it was 4 DVDs, I guess, of stuff to bed. And they had the most beautiful ending, which just was so poignant, and it just totally floored me and made me realize that with all these movies, all these things that you're reading, that there is a future in another time where you're going to look back at, people are going to look back at what you did and what you achieved and who you were. And it's going to be long gone, but it's going to live on. And that was a very, very illuminating moment for me to think, well, everything you do now is going to mean something to someone sometime, and if it's not, you'll be dust like everything else. But that's what the clever Japanese people that had made that ending sequence, which was a very Zen or I guess religiously or spiritually motivated ending, was so cool. And sorry for waxing on about spiritually sort of things, but I'm very much into all that sort of stuff as well. And and you know, it's all about emotion and people and meaning and feeling and heart and love and who people are. You know, so.
But I think it's fair to say that you're certainly creating a massive legacy, especially for your children. Like with your music, but also with your story, like your life in general. Like have you ever considered writing your story down? Because I mean, you've certainly you've got a lot of stories to.
I've tried, but the single thing about my story is about someone who did a lot but did nothing at the same time. You know, so your footprint to you is massive, but to other people it's meaningless, if that makes sense. So your story is interesting and it matters to not a lot of people, you know. So
I think to be honest, what I take from everything that you've told me, and I said I've known you for less than 2 hours pretty much, is like what I hear is someone who is dedicated more than most people that I've ever met, who has been striving pretty much their entire life to make it in music. That to me is super inspiring, and something that, again, you don't hear very often. So I would say, like, so my take from the last an hour and a half that we've been speaking now is, I think there'd be a lot of people both listening, but also people that have been on the show previously, and people that I will talk to in the future, that have all these dreams, but never pursue them, never do anything about it. So what you can say, you know, when the time comes and everybody says, "Oh, when I'm on my deathbed and all that stuff," you can say that you did it, like you tried it. It's not like you're going to have any regrets and say, "Oh, I wish I had done that," because
no, absolutely, there's no regrets.
Yeah, and that to me is super powerful, super inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't feel a day over the day I made my first steps into a recording studio for the first time, or got on a stage for the first time. It's exactly the same today as it was then. Just because I'm older and wiser doesn't invalidate it, but a lot of people do, unfortunately, try to invalidate it, you know? And, generations will come and look on you as someone who should just give up and fuck off and go away. But I don't really care. I just do what I do because I like doing it, and fuck it. Excuse the French, I shouldn't be saying, but in a most situation. And, if I'm still making music in another 10 years, which is highly likely, because if it's in you, it's in you. You can't stop it. What do? Turn around one day and go, "Oh, shit, it's my birthday. I better give up because I've hit a certain age." Or do you do like some of the classical composers or classical artists, and just keep doing what you do until you can't do it another time? That'll be me. I'm sure that when I'm on a freaking ventilator at 104 or 105, I'll still have a guitar next to the bed with a new idea and be thinking about, "Oh, shit, we've got to get to a gig," That'll be me,
But see, that is powerful. That's inspiring to I think to a lot of people. Something that you have that much passion. And again, just based on what you're saying, again, it just made me think, because that's something, again, we had a little bit of a discussion with some previous guests as well. Is there an age limit to becoming a rock star?
I don't know. I'm certainly pushing the boundaries. But I don't care anyway. To me, it's not about that, essentially, anyway. I mean, it's lovely to be loved, and it's lovely for people to respect what you do. It's lovely for people to buy it and show respect by supporting you. But, a good idea is a good idea. Whether you're aged 10 or aged 100, it's still a good idea. Yep. It's not worse because you're 100.
But that has been my argument as well. I'd say, like, look, people listen to the music. So if I listen to a music on Spotify or Apple or something like, it doesn't matter to me who is playing it. If it's a song you can resonate with, something that means something to you, you're gonna appreciate the song. It doesn't matter whoever plays it. If they're 20 or if they're 70, it's the music that makes all it's the music that awakens, the emotions or the images in your head.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that I've really been loving recently, of all things, is Beethoven. Just rediscovering the Beethoven catalogue.
Oh, wow.
To what he did. You're talking, late 1700s, 1800s, and it was light years ahead of anything imaginable. The music, it was so brilliantly, emotively fantastic. It was just totally, completely timeless. And at that point, 200 years later, no one gives a stuff. It's either good and you love it, or it's good and you don't love it, or it's shit and you love it anyway. It doesn't matter, because time has a funny way of playing tricks with people. There's lots of things that people obviously think are great today that they'll look back on and go, oh my God, what were we thinking? I'm not mentioning any particular genius or whatever else, but because I love them all. But all music is valid, whether it's done by a baby or a pensioner or whoever. Everything is valid. Every human being is valid.
Yep.
Every thought, every feeling is still valid. And no 100%. One can validate that. And fuck them if they're going to try and do that. They're wrong. And they can stick it,
It actually, it's funny you say that, because that it's sort of I don't know why, but it makes me think of this other sort of a bit controversial question, I suppose. But out of all the really, really awesome bands that you mentioned, going back to the 70s and 80s and all that stuff, I've had this discussion every now and then with my wife, where we're sort of talking about, like, who will our kids remember from this era? Like, is there any sort of really cool bands, rock or pop or anything, that sort of will stand out the same way? Like Bohemian Rhapsody, definitely one of the biggest rock songs, if not the greatest rock song of all time. Who's making a similar song in 2020 or 2015? You know what I mean? Like this whole decade.
It's too hard to program it.
Yeah.
Everyone's just plonking a beat together and making some racket over the top of a beat with a bunch of effects, and that's great. It's great for clubs or whatever else. But in fairness, you go back to great composers, particularly from the 60s and from the 50s and 60s, even 40s, 50s and 60s. People like Burt Bacharach and Brian Wilson, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. They were total, complete geniuses that could do it just on a guitar or a piano. And the rule of thumb for me is, if you take a song away, strip it all down to just a voice and an instrument, does it still work? And that tends to sort of illuminate the wheat from the chaff, because you can do any Beatles song without a guitar and it's going to sound great. Any Burt Bacharach song, or whoever, all of those great people from all the great songwriting stables all did such great things, and they knew what they were doing. They were brilliant. I'm sure that there is probably some music today that's going to maybe last through that and be able to transmute into something with longevity. I mean, there's people like Kate Miller-Heidke, who I think is quite talented in that sort of way. And if she can hang in there, she'll probably do well. And I'm sure there's plenty of others too that are pretty awesome, but it's just going to take time. And they'll have to go through the same lessons we all go through, make their mistakes, lose followers on Spotify or Instagram or whatever, and regain them again.
Yep.
And,
it's such a different skill set these days.
Such a different skill set, but a great song is a great song. A great emotion is a great emotion. And, you look at the ads, you just look at the television for ads and how much they rape and pillage the 60s and 70s for ads, because they're commercial and they sell things. Why? Because they were well written and well thought out.
But it's also, but at the same time, like it's so timeless. Like, again, like you can put on to me, like I grew up and like I remember I started playing drums early 80s. So it was sort of all the grunge. I grew up in Guns N' Roses, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Metallica, and all that stuff. But I also listened to a lot of the older stuff, like Led Zeppelin, David Bowie, and stuff like Paul Simon. I remember my parents was into all that stuff. The Beatles as well. But yeah, like my kids are listening to, Coldplay and Cake by the Ocean and Ya Ding Dong. They're listening to that Netflix movie at the moment. They're going completely nuts about that at the moment. But I'm like, actually, maybe Coldplay could go over and have. They've got some really strong songs.
I think Coldplay were a huge influence for me around that period, around the 2010 period. I thought that his writing was everything I wanted to incorporate. I think they hit a nerve that was fantastic. And, they're not the most technically gifted of bands as such, but, I think they're brilliant,
Less is more, as you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. There's so much to that. And Coldplay are one band that you can take their songs on the whole and strip down to nothing and they still work, Most of them do anyway. Most songs.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely it's a funny time, a funny decade.
I mean, each generation is going to have their own thing. That's great, and the good things will last, and the garbage will fall by the wayside, and some of it will maybe survive if it's lucky, like punk. There was some great things come out of punk. There was great things out of all these eras, and that's half the fun of it.
Yeah,
if it was great, you'd be totally stuffed.
But it's also like I think the thing that really annoys me the most about sort of the genre, or sort of not the genre, the industry as it is these days, is like everything that's on the radio sounds like completely identical. And you have all the really, really good bands and all the really good music that you can come across that are playing rock is stuff that you have to go and find on YouTube. You have to go and find that on all the other platforms.
Because I'm sure for most of the regular music, you can just make, I'm sure there's an app for that. Just write a song in blah and off it goes, and it's a meaningless pile of dribble that lasts 3 minutes and everyone jumps up and down to it and gets smashed to it, and it's great. Awesome. But
actually, I suppose actually on the flip side to that, there's so many internet radio stations as well that are sort of specializing in all these genres that aren't played on commercial radio. And I've picked up a lot of new bands that I've never heard of through those internet radios.
There is so many great bands out there doing great things. It's not funny. But the problem being now that there is so many, and it's such an open field, that sticking your hand up to be heard is really difficult, because even you might not necessarily be an outstanding band, you just might be competent or just pretty damn good, and the competition is stiff. There's certainly not denigrating anything new that's come out. I mean, there's so many great artists out there still doing great things, and thank God for people like yourself and a lot of the publications that keep going, trying to promote the artists. And the quality will last, I'm sure, through it, and things will find a way. Human nature being what it is, things always find a way. And there was always, even back in the 60s and 70s, there was millions of great bands, but not everyone got to hang around at Abbey Road with the Beatles. Or the Beatles could have been a failure, and they could all have been down in a coal mine if it wasn't for a bit of luck and someone pushing their case. Back in the day. And same for all the great artists. There was always that sliding doors moment where they got lucky where everyone else didn't, And that still applies today. Someone gives them a plug and bang, you're trending on something.
That's it. But that's again also a really interesting thing about modern technology. Like if something is trending, you can literally write a song and have it out in the matter of days.
Absolutely.
And that way you can hit all the hashtags. You can hit everything that's on the media and all that.
Exactly.
And it's crazy. And like you can record an album with people that are in a different country and different time zone and put everything together in Pro Tools, and boom, you got a song.
Exactly.
It's
true. I mean,
it's good and bad, isn't it?
I mean, that's what happened, with the song I was telling you about. That was literally a day's work, and bang, it's out. From inception to burning the final wave file, a day.
Was that the one you're talking about? You're going to release next week? Yeah,
it's the same sort of thing. Sometimes the greatest things are created in the least time. You look at, the one that I always laugh at is Paranoid from Black Sabbath. The last song on the album, they needed a fast one. They needed something up-tempo to break things up a bit. There's a bit of a throwaway. It becomes one of the greatest rock songs of all time. And they're probably 5 minutes,
Wow, really? I wasn't aware of that. Well, again, it's a whole it's I suppose like the whole dynamics of songwriting as well is the fact is like there's no right or wrongs, and you can throw it out there, you can do ideas, and sometimes sometimes what you scrap, you never know, could have been something great. Sometimes it's not, and you release something that's shit.
Bohemian Rhapsody is the classic example. I mean, no one believed that could get played on the radio.
No,
anywhere. It was only Kenny Everett being persistent that got it out there.
Yep.
And breaking rules. He broke the rules of a 2-minute pile of crap on the radio. To play something good that lasts more than 2 minutes.
But that's also, again, something that stood out from everything else that was out at that time, or still is, really. Like, that song is really in a league of its own.
Totally. Totally.
But so just out of curiosity, what do you think it would take to sort of break through the noise in today's market? Do you need to do something extraordinary on, like, is it all marketing, you reckon?
I think it's money. If you're going to buy yourself video views on YouTube, or if you're going to pay to promote things on Facebook, or pay a promoter to put you on a playlist in Spotify, you've got enough money to do that, you're going to break through. But you look at the scale of what it takes to do that. I was reading a blog the other day when someone said they spent $1,000 to make 200 in Spotify plays. That's what they earned. They got 95,000 plays out of their $1,000 and then $200. So it's a net loss of $800. But you're doing it for a bigger reason. It's not just about making the $200 or the $800 loss. It's a bigger picture, But you've got pockets,
So is that to then have that sort of recurring algorithm, I suppose? So when you do release the next song, then hopefully some of those will overflow to the next one? Or?
Exactly. I mean, if someone's going to put a video into an Asian YouTube farm or whatever to get 1 million views up or whatever they do, that's going to certainly push the trending factor, and people are basically sheep. If they see lots of people following, they're going to jump on top of it. So it's for all the love that goes into the industry, there's a lot of bullshit that is driving people truly making a success of things, and it's never been any different. At the end of the day, back in, whether it's in the 60s with people paying DJs to play records on the radio, or going around buying their own albums in all the charting stores as they used to do, and it's common practice, and so that they will all happily admit to that, then what's changed? Not a lot. Can a Led Zeppelin ever happen again in the way that they happened? I don't think.
Probably not.
It was even they had money. They had loads of money behind them, loads of powerful people behind them. And that's what you need. You need people that believe in you, that have passion in you and the vision, and you have to convince that person that wants to put that effort into you that you are going to be stable and organised enough to see it through. so they can get a return on investment. And that's the reason that I left England in 1989, because I realized that I was just a can of beans to the record company or the manager. I was a way of either making money or not. And it was irrelevant. They didn't give a shit. And it wasn't about art. It wasn't about music. It was, hey, you're going to be on the road for 2 years and your ass is going to be mine. And you just better keep on producing those singles for us, you know. And, you know, I guess the hippie sort of ideal from the 60s was lost at that point when it all became about the mighty dollar.
Yeah.
But it still is. I mean, reading the Kiss book, it was exactly the same. You know, how did Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley do it? They had a guy with very deep pockets who put $250,000 into them before they'd even got off the ground, and they're still getting 50 people at a gig in New York. You know, and that's $250,000 in.
Yeah, back in those days.
Back in those days.
Wow.
You know, but they got a payoff, you know?
Yep.
They hung in, they got a payoff, but these days record companies are very loath to put that sort of investment, particularly in the band that might have 3 flop albums before they have a success, which was Kiss. You know, 3 albums that did nothing with massive investment. There probably would have been millions behind before they eventually got lucky. And well, they didn't get lucky. They were very smart with what they did. But yeah, no.
Well, I suppose like you also like you need those success stories to sort of keep hope alive, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, there's different stories. I mean, there's other people with completely different stories just as valid that had nothing put into them, that were discovered busking or whatever else. I mean, God knows what happened to Ed Sheeran or whatever, but all those sort of guys, you know, they had talent. They were in the right place at the right time on the right day with the right record company exec walking past or whatever happened to them.
Yeah.
They were there. They were prepared for when fortune hit them. They were ready to take it. And good on them, you know.
Yeah. It's very sort of. I often sort of think about sort of what sort of framework would be required to sort of set something up that would be not necessarily sustainable, but something that would be managed, like something that would work in today's market. Like, what would you need to sort of do to, like, say you had a brand new artist, like Ed Sheeran, for instance, like just to take him as an example, like to discover something that you can shape and mold in today's digital industry where everything is online. You have to have your videos on YouTube and your pretty photos and stuff on Instagram and keep in contact on Facebook.
Exactly. That's all it's about. It's being proactive, and it's having a product that you believe is going to have that payoff. And usually with someone like an Ed Sheeran, he still writes a good song. You know, at the end of the day, credit where credit is due. He puts a simple little song together and he's quite talented in what he does. Good luck to him. And but I guess for a lot of artists, a lot of us, we're maybe not 100% formed. And some people just have a knack for being right straight out of the box. Some of us are not. Some of us need assembly.
But I suppose you could argue then that if you have Ed Sheeran or if you have Jaime Page or if you have someone else, if it's a matter of saying, okay, I've got someone who's got a significant amount of money to back it up, to give it to someone who can put it out on the, as you mentioned, put it on the right playlists, get the right content sorted, get all your views boosted to sort of lift everything off the ground there. Don't you think that in this day and age, you can find an audience for pretty much any artist?
Absolutely. That's what it takes. Exactly what you said is exactly the way to do it. Exactly. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are doing that and will continue to do that. And good luck to them. And they're going to discover some great artists, and there's going to be more great music, and it'll perpetuate. That's great.
So then I suppose it really comes down to finding the right people to work with. Because there's so many cowboys out there as well.
But I mean, in a band environment, for argument's sake, not every band gels. You can have the best players and the best this and the best that, but some bands get lucky with the right combination. There's a particular spark between people that automatically has something. I know Led Zeppelin had it when as soon as they counted 4 and went in, they had it from that moment, and it was tangible. There's a lot of artists like that. Others need a lot of work and a lot of nurturing to be able to get to that point. And I guess for the impresarios that want to take artists and mold them, they often have to make a lot of hard decisions with the people that they're working with, which we discovered doing session work where band members were being replaced with your parts or whatever. That it was a lot. Sometimes you have to be really brutal and go, well, this person isn't right for this situation or that, and that's the job of the manager or the Brian Epstein or the Peter Grant or whoever. And that's an art form in itself. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage, particularly on the face of the artist who's worked with friends, and the record company turns around and says, oh, by the way, your friends are not on this album anymore.
Right.
Which happened. I've seen it. I've been there. I've watched it play out. I've watched that apart and sat there in embarrassment while it happens. But it happens. And some bands get lucky, like the Beatles get lucky. 4 wonderful people that had this incredible thing, Led Zeppelin, whoever, it's some managers get lucky.
Yeah. That's it. Let's just to people out there, if anyone has any questions, just you can start firing them away now. We're going to grab to a Q&A shortly. Let us jump over to, I've got this question I ask pretty much everybody on the show about this. So that is, if you have any sort of any tips or tricks, anything from you, because I'm sure you would have had, you have more tips and tricks than anyone else I've spoken with, I'm sure. But is there any good advice that you can pass on to any artists or any bands out there?
Yep. That was the first question I preempted when I started preparing for this interview.
Okay.
What the legacy of that response would be. And to me, number one is to be true to yourself, to believe in yourself, to always learn and realize that there is always more to learn and that you don't know everything, because we don't. And to stay open to others and to learn as much as you possibly can and have a plan. If you want to make something happen, it isn't just going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to think about it, work out how that plan is going to formulate, because 1 in a million people wins the lottery as such. But, you've got to have the numbers when they come up. You've got to be in there. And I just say, be prepared, work hard, and prepare for a lot of disappointment. And don't let the disappointments define you. Look at the wins that you've had, look at the good things that you've done, and let them sort of things define who you are. Even if it's one little win, it doesn't matter. That's you did it.
Yeah.
So, don't get discouraged. Don't stop believing in yourself. Just do it because you love doing it, not because you want something out of it.
Well, I suppose in this day and age as well, with the internet, social media, and all the trolls and stuff, and because you mentioned you had a bad review and you got a bit upset. I suppose if you have bands these days where you can be online and you can have everybody has a say, you know, it's so easy for keyboard warriors to sit behind the screen and you know, share their opinion on what you're doing. How should you filter that out and really just try and not let that get to you? Because again, when you, as a musician, when you put your stuff out, you know, that's your babies. That's in many ways, it's something you've been working on for years. It can be, as you mentioned as well, something that's very, very personal to you. And if you put it out there and somebody just wipes that off,
exactly.
How should you sort of try and block that out?
I mean, that's been there for years on YouTube. And it's something that's never ceased to amaze me. You know, every time I see the dislike button and see the handful of trolls that have jumped in there and disliked the most wonderful, brilliant, awesome things, it's basically, okay, well, it's a given that a particular percentage, which is fairly consistent, don't have lives beyond having to pull successful, good people down. So fuck them. If you're going to let the handful of dislikers and trolls and dickheads put you off, then it's your fault, because they don't matter. They don't matter. Everyone's going to cop that. Yeah, I'm sure even God has trolls, you know. They couldn't find what God does, you know. He's better than Yngwie Malmsteen, you know.
Yeah, it's actually fun. I actually never thought about it until you said it there. Why do you even need that dislike button? Like, what's it there for? If you've got something bad to say, just keep it to yourself.
Exactly. You know, if you haven't got something decent to say about someone, just fuck off, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Just to say it as it is. Okay. Fantastic. The other thing, just before we grab a Q&A, is where should people head over if they want to stay on top with Jaime Page and everything? Is there a social media page that's your preferred? I think you mentioned Facebook earlier.
Yeah, I prefer the Dark Universe hashtag. Oh, sorry, the Dark Universe AU address.
Yep,
that's the best place to find anything. That's going to be as current as anything that's out there. It's always up to the minute, you know, whereas websites tend to be a little bit behind in comparison. Or they can go to my page. You know, I wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit on my page. If they want to converse or get in touch through that, they can happily do that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really
the main ones,
to be honest.
Yep.
They work. It's simple. It's easy. And, you know, we were always posting new things up there when we get them. So.
And there'll be some updates on the gigs as well.
Exactly. But I think what's more important is that people tune in every night to you. That's far more. We're going to get a lot more interesting shit up there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. They actually don't need to tune in because again, they can listen to it again later. It's obviously if they want to ask questions, then they have to be on here.
It's great that you can dive that deep, and you must have some incredible conversations with sort of a lot of amazing, interesting people, and you know.
It's actually, to me, it's actually not just a conversation. It's also the fact that you get exposed to all these bands that you've never heard of and never would have heard of if it wasn't because of this.
They're all brilliant. Brilliant.
I listened to Shatter quite a bit when I was driving to the gig on Friday to check out some of the other bands that I listened to. Because it was the only song I could find on iTunes.
Yeah, that's because of the changeover in digital.
You mentioned that, yeah. Yep.
All that stuff will be righted come the weekend, hopefully. I fixed all that.
So everybody should go in there for now and register so they can start following Dark Universe.
Yep, I did prepare a Spotify playlist, which I can share with a lot of the popular Black Steel, Dark Universe, and Dark Universe songs, whatever was available on Spotify at the time. There's a few things that I wanted to add to that list that were strangely not there for strange reasons, like the Brian May stuff wasn't there. It was greyed out.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. Maybe there's rights issues or something like that going on. Maybe he wants more money. I don't know.
But have you got the credentials for that song or the royalties?
I was paid in advance when it first came out. Then it went into litigation, and I've seen nothing since.
Right.
So I don't know. I spoke to the people from APRA, and they said whatever funds have come into it have gone to some dodgy company in the Bahamas. So someone
really?
probably made money out of it, but it's certainly not me. But the rights for that would be worth tens of thousands of dollars. When you've been played on Top of the Pops and you've been played on concerts around the world, that's might be $100,000 worth of royalties.
Yeah, especially if that has been for decades. That would have. I think that would be a substantial amount.
The biggest payout I got was about $1.90 from it.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've still got a check there for $1.90 for a resurrection somewhere from a play in New Zealand, I think it was. God forbid.
Oh, that's shocking.
It's funny. It's funny.
Oh, no, that's devastating.
That's funny. It's just the business.
Yeah. Oh wow! Well, I had a guest on she was a singer-songwriter from Nashville in Tennessee. I had her on a couple of months ago, and she was talking about how she wrote a song that was initially going to be for herself. She wrote that for the label she was signed to, but then they decided to not use it, and they were going to give it to another artist. And she got really upset. And 3 months later, they kept her on as a songwriter because obviously she wrote it. But they gave that song to LeAnn Rimes, and that became her 4th #1 single. And she was very happy with that. Yeah, she said, it's a little recurring check that comes in there. So it's been a very, very good investment.
Exactly. Who knows what your destiny really, where it lies. You think it's one thing, but it might well be another. And
that was obviously meant for greater good. And that's again one of the other things, as we spoke about earlier, like sometimes you can have this good song, but if that falls in the wrong hands, sometimes that song might not go anywhere. But,
exactly.
Like she could probably have released that song herself and it might not have been anything. But with LeAnn Rimes was really, she was active. She was current at that time. So that song obviously just hit something.
Totally. Yeah. That's another one for the lottery.
That's exactly right. Fantastic. Let's jump over here and have a look at some questions here. I actually had one here that was sent in early. This is probably, I suppose, a pretty good one actually. Which one is your best favorite gig experience? Something that sort of stands out as saying, as this was one of your highlights gigging wise.
Yep, there's quite a few, but the #1 for me was the Dark Universe CD launch.
Wow, cool.
That was #1 by quite a country mile, quite a long way. That was incredibly special. If I had to find something else that would equal that, it would be supporting Deep Purple on their first concert on their reunion tour with Ritchie Blackmore in 1984 with Trilogy. That would be #2.
Where was that?
Perth Entertainment Centre, 1984, Perfect Strangers tour. First show that they'd ever played together in front of people. And there's stupid old me backstage, hanging around doing nothing. John Lord and Roger Glover come out and they're like, "Oh, do you think, we're really nervous." I go, "You nervous? Are you joking?" Gods, what are you worried about? No, we don't know, don't know how this is going to go. I said, fuck off. I said, just, you guys they're going to love you. They're going to love you. I looked back and thought, my God, these are the guys I was trying to trying to pep up, who are the guys that when I was 13, I would sit there looking at the album covers, wishing I was going to be doing what they were doing. And on that particular gig, I remember looking over to the foldback guy, Ralph Berman, my trusty friend from back then. And there's Richie Blackmore standing next to him, sort of done up with all his stage gear on and everything, watching us. And it's like, holy fuck, that is your hero. You know?
Well, it just shows that they are humans too, you know. They were
human, you know. And you just don't realize. You think they're sitting on Mount Olympus somewhere. But, you know, they're just as frail as everybody else, you know. More frail, if anything, because they've got so much to lose. You know?
Very true, actually. But I suppose if you are there, if you're playing to a sold-out crowd or something, it's probably a good problem to have.
Yeah, but they were great, and they did well, and they were lovely people. The Deep Purple people, they were really, really good, really nice people.
Well, they usually are. They're actually usually quite humble. You know, when you are talking to some of them. I suppose there's always the dickheads. You know, the egos and all that.
Yeah, some of them.
So let's see here. We got one here from Gareth Edwards, who is saying, are there any sound desk recordings from Trilogy in existence?
There are, but I don't have them.
Would they be?
They'll be around. I'm sure that if someone reads that in the comments, that someone somewhere is going to find one. But I certainly don't have any, and all the cassettes I do have or did have have long since died.
Right.
They just don't work anymore. So,
yeah, I suppose that's probably one of the sort of downsides about the older technology, that it was a lot harder to sort of keep everything that was around. Whereas these days, in digital desks, you can record everything pretty much straight from the desk. We've got again our mutual friend who introduced us, Chris Symes. He is loving live albums. So his question is to you, just a random question, but do you think a live album is a lost art?
No, I think it's great. I think it's a great thing to do. And
could there maybe be a live album from Dark Universe?
Probably. Yeah, at very worst, I would love to maybe even experiment with a live in the studio type of scenario too.
Cool.
Just to put the gang into a studio and have them just play. Or, but if the conditions were right, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I've got the whole of our first gig in audio and video as well, the ones that you've seen.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna finish off on another song when we get to that as well. But that was again that was filmed spectacularly as well. Like you could see you guys had sort of put some effort into it.
Yeah, we've got a lot to thank John Davis, the videographer, for. Got a lot to thank the lighting and sound people for that, and the Charles Hotel. It was just one of them magical nights when we just managed to make everything line up, and we had the crowd with us at that point,
Yeah. Let's see. We've got, there's quite a few. I don't even think I can scroll all the way to the top here, but we've got one here from, hang on, what was it? Got Rachel Blackledge here, who says she wants to know how many guitars altogether are layered on the Dark Universe album. That I've tried counting, but I get lost in the songs.
We tried to keep it down to really two main rhythm guitars, left and right, split into stereo.
Yep.
And often that might be double tracked with clean tracks underneath it. So it would be very rare that there'd be any more than maybe 4 guitar tracks at any one time. The rest of it was all either Craig's keyboards or my sequencing and keyboard programming.
Wow, okay. So, I suppose again that also sort of makes it easier to replicate it live. So you haven't got too many guitars that you wouldn't be able to replicate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we had a problem, because the guitars were too big. I mean, the original guitar sound was so massive that we had to pull it back because it was just killing everything else around it, you know?
Let us see. I actually had I wrote something down here as well, which is something that I saw on your blog as well, which you were sort of referring to how black is everywhere. I'm just gonna I should just read up here. So black is everywhere and permeating every pore of my musical soul. Black Alice, black steel, deepest black, into the black. It never ends. Maybe though one day I may discover another color, although I'm fond of purple. Deepest white just doesn't cut it for me, I guess. So what is it about black and dark that is so...
I think it's... I've always had a thing for looking at the sky at night and looking into it, looking at the endless possibilities of what's up there. And you can't see that during the day. All you can see is blue sky. But at night you can see into the depths of the universe, into history, into much deeper things than we'll ever understand. And I think that's what does it for me. That feeling of otherworldliness, so to speak.
Yep.
And
but obviously, but also like a lot of your previous bands and song titles are sort of evolving around black.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just love the color black. It's blacker than black.
It's rock. It's very rock, I suppose.
It's just, you know, you look at the great albums of all time. Hell's Bells. Black.
Back in black.
Back in black. Having said that, I love the Beatles' White Album.
There you go. That's another one. But as you said, you can't say deepest white.
White is white. Maybe we can start a detergent company together.
Fantastic. There's some other stuff here. We got. Are you writing any new Dark Universe material? I suppose you kind of already said you had about five albums worth.
So many songs on the needing to do list. It's not funny. Dozens. The hard thing is going to be picking the ones that
filtering it out.
Get a shot, you know.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough.
And so, in regards to the ones you're going to pick and record, is that going to be, as we spoke about earlier, is that going to be mainly singles, or are you going to go in and do maybe a couple, and then you can release, sort of drip feed them? Or?
We'll just have to see what studio time we can afford. You know, it's quite, you know, trying to record a drummer with all the issues of getting a good drum sound in a studio is expensive in itself. So I don't think we'll ever be able to afford to do that to the level that I would want to do again. So it's really a question of what we can do with electronics to keep the cost down that will enable us to do that. So that might mean drummers having to use electronic kits to trigger samples, for example, which will make it doable and affordable. That will be the future for us, and producing it largely ourselves, which we're quite capable of doing.
Well, you actually see an extraordinary amount of bands doing that these days, and that way, like my whole setup I've got in the back here. I've got a hybrid kit. I've converted an acoustic kit into an electronic kit, so it still feels like you are playing a real kit. And there, absolutely, you can just run the MIDI in. You can sit. It makes it so much easier to edit the track. You can change the sound, and with technology these days, you can make it sound like a real kit with whole, like you got your overheads, your room mics and everything. And again, as you said, you can record that at whatever the drummer, if the drummer needs to, if you need to pay the drummer pretty much, because otherwise it's just time.
Because if you're not at Abbey Road or Air Studios or somewhere with incredible acoustics, you're opening up a Pandora's box of problems with rooms that add things that you cannot EQ out.
100%.
You know?
100%. And I think doing it yourself is such an underrated thing of doing that. I think too many bands these days are too fixated on the whole studio experience when they really should put their money in marketing and get on.
Being in the studio is my favorite place in the world to be. And if I could own a studio or live in one, I would. I'd sleep there. I would never budge from it. But it's just not physically, financially possible anymore for a lot of us.
No, that's it.
You know, if you get successful, then it's a different ballgame and you can afford studios. And it's not necessarily the best engineers, because there's some brilliant engineers even locally who do great work, like Stewie and Trina Babin and plenty of other people. There's lots of talent there, you know.
Yeah. I've got Jay from Oracle. He's my guest tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to sort of to get some studio insights.
Exactly.
What else have we got here? Beck Trent would like to know if there is any all ages gigs on the cards anytime soon.
Yeah, we are thinking about doing a tour of over 55 homes at some point.
Nice.
No, highly unlikely that we'll be able to do any all ages gigs in the short term. Maybe we can go to Beck's house and do a personal show one day.
Maybe, yeah, we can maybe do a live stream. That's really popular these days. Everybody can tune in there.
I mean, Beck has talent in her household as well. We've got a little superstar guitar player in waiting at the Trent household who's going to be a monster if she gets a chance.
Fantastic. Let's see. Let's try and grab one more here. See if I can find something. We got Ken Austin here. Says, was Rob Hartley and you in a gypsy together?
Yes, we were. And I don't know where Rob Hartley is now. There's two stories going around that he either found a religious cult or he was taken up into space by aliens. I'm not sure which one's more likely.
Well, I suppose we have to leave that. Actually, let's grab this one, last one here. So that is Breaking the Chains concert on the 22nd. Will there be new music and or merchandise for Dark Universe or for Black Steel?
At this point, there is no new music, unfortunately. This is just a consolidation of where we're at this point, to just take a breath and go, hey, we're still here. We're still alive. We're doing this shit. It's a bit of a launch pad for what comes next. Now for both bands and for Triple Engine too. I'm sure that they've got lots of great things in their pipeline as well. But for me, what I've planned for our November gig, as I said, is for my crazy instrumental stuff, to do that as a bit of a little featurette in the middle. So that'll be all new music. And that buys us a little bit of time to think about which of the billions of songs we've got to choose from we might attempt to record with Dark Universe. But we will be playing two of the unrecorded songs at the show with Dark Universe, which is a song called Star of Light. And what was the other one? Oh, God, I can't even remember my own song titles now. Deconstruct, which was written about a friend of mine deconstructing them and putting them back together again. A bit of a heavy metal take on Humpty Dumpty.
Oh, wow. That sounds interesting. I suppose we have to get people to come down to the gig and check it out themselves.
Absolutely.
If you want to do a little shout out for the gig again, was it the 22nd?
Yeah, it's a big birthday day for me, so hopefully,
awesome.
We'll see such fantastic people as Daniel Lowe down there helping me to celebrate it. Daniel is our number one fan, for those who don't know already.
Yeah, he's. I saw he logged in early as well, so he's probably watching as well.
He's absolutely. I think if there was any higher than number one, Daniel would get the Guernsey for that. He's just unbelievable, and he'll be very happy now his name's mentioned. Bless him.
Fantastic. Good on you, Daniel.
No, 22nd of August at the Civic Hotel. Only 100 tickets, and a lot of them have gone already. We're very conscious of keeping people safe during these difficult times, so there will be, we do want to keep the numbers down. They'll be expected to use the hand sanitizers and everything else, and be respectful of each other in the environment, because we don't want to see people getting sick. We want people to come and rock and have a good time. And that's with Triple Engine, Craig Skelton's baby, and their new single, Love Thing, and Black Steel, who are probably all at home in bed now with a cup of Milo and their slippers on. Throwing that. And, hopefully we'll see the incredible Chris Symes there doing his write-up. So if you've got anything you want to get in his ear about, you can have a whine to him about how shit we are or how good we are or whatever. And hopefully, I tell a lie, he'll be taking the photos, and the most incredibly wonderful Ashley from Around the Sound will be there to do the review. So,
fantastic. She's been extremely supportive of sort of helping out, getting this show shared as well on Around the Sound and all that stuff.
Yes, Ash is wonderful. Chris is incredible. I mean, such an inspiration. You see people like Ash and Chris, and you realise that the world has got a lot of great things to look forward to. Especially
very important for the local scene as well.
The local scene. I mean, I would hazard to say that for Andrew, Ash, and Chris, that people get behind them. They're all working their guts out for nothing to push this scene. They're doing it for love. They're not. It's costing them money to do this stuff. So I'd urge people to support Around the Sound and what their initiatives are. I really would.
Absolutely.
For bands to help each other. Stop thinking about yourselves and go and like some other bands and push other bands' stuff as well. Support other people in the scene. Because there's more people than just us out there. If we do support each other, someone's going to get lucky somewhere.
That's one of the things that I really that really surprised me the most from doing all these chats to a lot of the local bands from Perth is how awesome the community is, how helpful everybody are. They're sort of sharing each other's bills. When they're playing, that's sort of sharing each other's stuff online and stuff. It's really nice to see. I've been to 2 gigs now over the last couple of weeks. And people are so nice, so friendly, so forthcoming.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the music scene in Perth is quite unique in that aspect.
I mean, in all honesty, the quality that you get in this town always has, from the early days through to today, has been second to none, and people are so criminally underrated in this town, and always have been. You go to a lot of, when I went to London, there was nothing like the musos in Perth, nothing. Same thing for AC/DC. When they went to London, it was like, oh my God, who are these guys? They're just streets ahead of the everything else in the pubs. Just nothing came close, Blitzed it, totally blitzed it.
I think just probably the biggest handicap is the fact that we are so isolated, so people can't really go and play anywhere else.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, if you have one good gig in London, it's probably worth 1,000 good gigs in Perth. Because one reviewer for one big magazine or record company sees you and something happens. Over here, you have the best gig you ever had ever. And,
And you play to your friends and the bar staff.
And you play to your friends and the bar staff, or even if you're playing to a packed house.
Yep.
It doesn't matter because, no one can hear you screaming, from over here. And
that's right.
It's the same in America, bands that are in the Midwest or out in the sticks, struggle. They have to move to New York or Los Angeles to be seen. That's tough. It's hard. You ain't going to make it in the movies if you don't go to Hollywood, for example, you know?
But that's just, but that's when you need the Jaime Page focus and passion.
Yep, you go there like an idiot and you think you can do it.
Well, you either do that or you sit at home and say, "Oh, I should have done it.
I could have done it better." That's what people usually say. You know?
But the thing is, yeah, you could have done it better. But at least you did it.
Absolutely, I had the argument early on with someone where people were laughing at me for some of the people I'd worked with and still wasn't successful. And they looked at me like I was mad and said, "Really? You worked with those people and you're here and you never made it? You're a joke, you know?" I said, "Well, at least I went over there and had a crack. What are you doing? You're standing at a bar in Perth."
Exactly. People need to sometimes just take a look in the mirror themselves and see, like, what have you done? It's so easy to judge anyone else.
I mean, the biggest crime is not trying.
Absolutely.
You know, if you tried, you succeeded. Even if you don't, you've had a go. And you can look yourself in the mirror and go, "I gave it everything," rather than wait for someone else to do it for you, you know?
Absolutely.
Anyway, we could go around in circles all night and all that stuff. I won't.
Yeah. I was about to say, we could probably talk about this for days, man. But let's try and round off here with the last video. So we've got deepest black. We're gonna finish off in black. So we've got deepest black coming up. That's another video from your album launch a couple of years ago. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind introducing the song.
Sure. Not a lot of people realize what was going on behind the scenes as we count that song in, but it's probably the single most incredible moment, jumping up onto that stage and hearing Michael count to 4 as we started the first notes of Deepest Black. And it's probably going to be my all-time favorite of any song I've ever written. To me, it's my defining moment as a musician. And please stream it, download it, love it, share it, and enjoy it for what it is. A song written totally from the heart with love and passion and nothing else. That's all it was, just love, passion, and raw emotion. Enjoy it and be a part of that moment again. And a quick shout out to our beautiful friend, Dean McQuiggan, who was seen at the very end raising a glass to us. Poor Dean was taken with cancer not long after that show. And that particular moment where John caught him on camera raising his glass will stay with all of us in the band for a lifetime. So watch out for Dean at the end.
Beautiful.
Enjoy. And thank you to everyone for everyone's support and everything that they've done for us, and especially to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
The most incredibly enjoyable interview I could ever imagine doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, and look, and thank you so much for your time and for sharing all these stories, man. I'm humbled, and I'm like I can't believe how an exciting life you've had.
Yes,
and still have, and I'm hoping I'm gonna go and buy a ticket now because I wanna come down and check you guys out before they sell out. And whoever's watching out here, you should do the same. Yeah. Go in and buy a ticket. Where can you buy a ticket? That's very important. Very important.
Good question. If you follow the event, join the event on the Dark Universe AU event page, that will give you a link to Ticket Booth where you can buy the last remaining tickets, and we can't wait to see you there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jaime. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will finish off on Deepest Black, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in or listening along to the show. If you like the show, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to my social channels. It doesn't cost you anything, but it greatly helps me to build my networks and my chances of getting sponsors to keep this show running. If you want to take it to the next level, please head over to patreon.com/Stephen Helhammer and become a patron by joining the exclusive community there. You can start from as little as $3 per month. And for just a little extra, you get access to some fantastic features, outtakes, behind the scenes stuff, and much, much more. That's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. And that way you can help me build better content. I can devote more time to find awesome guests and just generally just keep everything flowing. If you want to be on the show or subscribe to my mailing list, send an email to steven@helhammer.com, and that is HELhammer.com. That way I can start sending you exclusive invites, random stuff, and messages that, who knows, you might enjoy. So that's it. Have a rocking day ahead, guys, and I will see you on the live stream or in your headphones very soon. Take it easy.